When Lucy Letby was accused of harming babies in her care, people that knew her was deeply saddened, and no one could believe someone they know and love could commit such a horrific crime, and they still don't believe it to this day. The whole country was shocked as well, and especially the baby's parents, that a nurse who they trusted could commit such a horrific act of cruelty to their babies and the most precious and innocent souls on earth. Even though she was convicted, some people have their views that she is innocent and is being wrongfully imprisoned for a crime she didn't commit. I have my views on it, and it's not really fair on anyone for saying what I really think. The people I feel sorry for the most are the parents of the babies and their families who now have to spend the rest of their lives without their babies. And as a father myself, I have so much sympathy for them, but I can't imagine how painful it is. They must be suffering, and I wish I could take the suffering away. Is Lucy Letby guilty, or is this a miscarriage of justice? Who is Lucy Letby? Letby was born on the 4th of January 1990 and grew up in Hereford, England. She lived a normal and comfortable life growing up, and she was from a middle class family. She is the only child to John Letby, a furniture salesman, and Susan Letby, an accounts clerk. Her parents were very protective and devoted, and they were a very close knit family. When she was a child, she had no history of abuse or trauma taking place in the family home. Neighbours and school friends remembered her as a happy, smiling child and was quietly spoken. She was also really shy. From an early age, Letby concentrated on her career aspirations. She attended St James Church of England Primary School, Aylestone School, and Hereford Sixth Form College. When she was in court, she told the jury that she always wanted to work with children. She carefully chose her secondary school subjects to support her entry into neonatal nursing. Detectives who worked on her case would later summarize her entire upbringing and early adulthood as unremarkable and a human form of beige, offering no psychological red flags prior to her crimes. Letby studied nursing at the University of Chester, and in 2011 she graduated and started working full-time at the Countess of Chester Hospital in England. Within her first year of working there from October to December 2012, Letby started to work at Liverpool Women's Hospital on a work placement, and she worked there a second work placement from January to February 2015. The short placements were part of her specialist training to qualify for intensive care neonatal nursing. Both periods have now been heavily scrutinised by Cheshire Police and the public farewell inquiry after audits revealed an unusually high rate of breathing tubes dislodgements during her shifts. Letby worked in the Countess of Chester Hospital in the neonatal unit, caring for premature babies, sick newborns, and infants needing intensive or special care. According to staff profiles at the time, she was described her role as caring for babies needing different levels of support. She also participated fundraising campaigns for a new neonatal unit. Between the years of 2012 and 2013, she started as a junior neonatal nurse and worked on regular wards. She built experience caring for vulnerable infants. In 2013, there was an incident involving an incorrectly set morphine infusion with another colleague, and then following this, she was temporarily lost permission to administer controlled drugs and underwent extra training. She later returned to full duties after a review. In 2014, she completed additional neonatal specialist training and became more qualified in intensive neonatal care. In early 2015, she received further intensive care training at Liverpool Women's Hospital and became qualified to care for the sickest babies in intensive care. Between June 2015 and June 2016, the hospital became concerned that there was a really high and unusual rise in baby deaths that was occurring in the neonatal unit. Doctors on the unit became increasingly concerned after noticing Letby had been present during most of the unexpected emergencies. During this period, she often worked extra shifts because of staffing shortages on the ward, and she was considered experienced in neonatal intensive care. In 2016, after consultants repeatedly raised concerns, Letby was removed from frontline neonatal duties. She was assigned to administrative work, and eventually the police were called in. After a couple of years of investigation, Letby was eventually arrested in 2018. Colleagues and acquaintances often described her as quiet, hard-working, dedicated, and close to her parents, and heavily involved in her nursing career. She lived near the hospital after buying her first home in 2016. Part of why this case shocked the public so much is because of how people who knew her saw her as. That she was ordinary and a trusted neonatal nurse. She was arrested at her home in Chester, where she had been living while working at the hospital. Detectives carried out searches at the property during the arrest. News reports at the time described police vehicles outside her home and officers entering her property in the early morning. There were a forensic search of the house afterwards. Her arrest quickly became major national news because police announced they were investigating baby deaths and collapses linked to the neonatal unit. She was initially arrested for suspicion of unaliving babies and attempting to unalive several others. At that stage, no charges had yet been filed and police were still reviewing medical evidence. Investigators were investigating how many neonatal cases there was. Following her arrest, detectives expanded the inquiry into her full nursing career and additional baby collapses. They also looked into her previous work placement into Liverpool Women's Hospital. When she was arrested, she didn't understand why, because to her she thought she was doing her job properly. And in her eyes, she would never harm babies, so she understandably was shocked, emotional and tearful, as seen on body cam footage from the police. She was also visibly distressed and frightened. When she was taken into custody, she was interviewed by detectives and questioned about the amount of baby collapses on her department. Beforehand, investigators had spent months going over medical records, staffing rotas, and witness statements, as well as incidents that has occurred on a neonatal unit. Police believed there was enough evidence to interview her under caution. While she was at the police station being interviewed, her house was searched, paperwork and electronic devices were seized, and the police found handwritten notes saying, "I did this, I'm evil, and I hurt them on purpose." They also found documents in her home, nursing documents in her home. The police also discovered that Letby had searched the baby's parents on Facebook. Her parents and friends have stuck by Letby throughout, and they are still devastated. They're all devastated in the crimes she was being accused of. Letby wasn't charged immediately. She was initially released on bail pending further inquiries. She was rearrested in June 2019 and bailed out again. She was then arrested a third time in November 2020 and was then formally charged with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. The police were trying to determine why deaths suddenly increased in the neonatal unit, whether incidents were natural or deliberate, and whether there was a common link between collapses. Police also worked with medical experts reviewing incident results, unexplained collapses, possible air embolisms, feeding incidents, and medical records. Her arrest shocked everyone that knew her because they saw Letby as quiet and really reserved, just an ordinary person. The trial began in October 2022 and it became one of the longest murder trials in UK history. She denied all allegations. On the 18th of August 2023, Letby was found guilty of multiple unaliving and attempted unaliving involving babies at the Countess of Chester Hospital on the neonatal unit. On the 21st of August 2023, she was sentenced to 14 whole life orders at Manchester Crown Court. She would spend the rest of her life in prison without ever being able to apply for parole. The judge, Mr. Justice Gose, imposed 7 whole life orders of unaliving 7 babies and additional whole life orders for the attempted unaliving. Letby did not attend court for her sentences. There is now new evidence that has come to light that may mean Letby is innocent, and experts are trying to prove it and trying to get her released. I will go over whether or not she is innocent or guilty in another video, but it isn't fair on anyone if I talk about it on this video. Like I said before, I have my own views on this case, but it is not fair for me to share them. I feel for the families that have been affected by this case. Rest in peace to all the beautiful babies that are no longer here.